Hear the notes in his mind while he created the muscle memory in his fingers. Toward the end of that summer, he bought an actual horn, and all that was left to do was to blow. And by the end of his second semester, he had blown everyone away and was first chair in the band. Mike went on to study artificial intelligence and bioinformatics and a bunch of other stuff that I don't understand, much less pronounce. He now collaborates with scientists to develop custom computer programs that they can use in their research. So when I asked Mike my question, I thought I might get a very high-level, complex answer. Instead, he said, you know what I miss most about high school band? It was the last time it was okay to do the best job that you could, and pretty much everyone was happy to have you do so. By comparison, he said, in the working world, I can virtually never just sit down at a technical task and do the best technical job I know how. There are always political considerations. Band gave me an introduction to doing something in the most perfect way that I could. Band was simply a place to try harder and get better, and I miss that. What a wonderful gift. What a great lifelong lesson. It's a noble calling you have, to create a safe place for kids to learn how to try harder and get better. That's a skill you never outgrow. A second reason what you do matters is that music education can help people understand that they are important as people. Nurturing and encouraging someone's interest and bestowing on them your confidence that they are capable. That is one of the single most powerful acts of compassion and generosity I can imagine, and it in fact is the primary gift I received from Dr. Menghini. Teaching music, in my mind, is the transference of that gift. You literally have the power to help people realize dreams and change their lives. Mike recently married another high school friend of mine, Lisa, also who was in band with us. She left me a voicemail just a couple of days ago, and she answered the same question. She said, you know, my music teachers were the first to help me figure out I could create something, that I literally could be the person to make something happen. Do you remember that astonishing sense of empowerment you felt the first time you figured out that you could make music? I can recall so vividly for myself how music moved me as a child. It made me excited. It made me want to dance. It made me want to scream. I'm sure when I practiced, it made my parents want to scream. It made me smile. And later on in life, I learned it could even make me cry. I'm sure each of you have heard student ensembles that have made you want to cry, but that's not what I mean. And as a student, I was so eager to know what these music teachers knew that I didn't. It was as if they were saying, here is this amazing thing that has been on earth nearly as long as we have. And it makes people feel, and it makes them think, and it makes them do things, just because of what they hear. And I'm going to show you how to do it. That recognition that we can create gives us a sense of self that is positive, powerful, and important. A third reason what you do matters is that music education shows people that beauty is important. That beauty has its own merit. That art, creativity, and self-expression need no functional utility to justify their existence. And that's what Elsa's procession reminded me of today. It just was wonderful. Now, I don't take an elitist view of beauty. Thanks again, in part to my music teachers over the years, I've discovered beautiful music is as likely to come from the jazz vocals of Kurt Elling, Chicago hometown boy, as they are from the Philadelphia Orchestra. I always knew that music could relax or excite me. I went to sleep every afternoon after junior high listening to a 1954 recording of Dave Brubeck's quartet, Jazz Goes to College. Just until Mom's key hit the door. But thanks to one college professor in particular who loved Chopin, it also taught me to enjoy my melancholia. Those of you who also love Chopin know exactly what I mean. That same teacher somehow made it okay to gradually realize that Brahms' Third Symphony, Third Movement had brought tears to my eyes. Of course, I also cry at MASH reruns, Hallmark commercials, and really good buffets. So I may be giving him too much credit, but I still like the Brahms. Perhaps you think I'm just being sentimental, letting the wash of nostalgia clean up my memories, leaving a fresh but artificial glow. It's not so. Let me give you some specific glimpses into moments when my music teachers made a difference, in ways that they probably didn't understand at the moment. They wouldn't recall as significant. It wasn't the big preparatory rehearsal, it It was just a moment in time. Eddie Hoyer was my drum teacher, my very first private music instructor. He was the last of a breed of old school entertainers. With a little studio in the Italian neighborhoods of Kansas City, this guy didn't just teach drums. He taught piano, organ, accordion, guitar, clarinet, tap dance, acrobatics, and wait for it, ventriloquism. And you think you've got a heavy teaching load. Throughout the 7 years that I studied with Eddie, I was getting little insights into what it meant to play with other musicians. From day one, May 27, 1972, the routine was the same. Part of the lesson, we worked together at the set, learning rudiments and beats and patterns and independence. Then the last part, that wonderful last part of the lesson, from day one, we made music together. Eddie would go to the piano and play, and I would play along. He made sure the first afternoon of my first lesson, I could play some simple beat that I could accompany him on the piano. So for my very first lesson, I was learning not just how to wiggle my sticks, but to listen, be a part of an ensemble, and make music. And God bless him for that. Then there's my grade school teacher, Mrs. Barker, who let me improvise percussion parts on those wonderful little Orff timpani to accompany the choir. You remember those Orff instruments? Can you imagine letting a student do that? You really don't want somebody 8 years old being out of control on the little drummer boy at your Christmas concert. But I didn't scare her. I'm especially surprised she tolerated me after I challenged her in class when she tried to get us all to count ta, ta, ti, ti, ta. And I said, hey, that's not it. Those are quarter notes and eighth notes. She smiled and said I was right. She helped me feel like a real musician from the very start. In junior high, there was a man named Glenn Hale, an unassuming small man with a good heart. He somehow endured my thousands of questions about theory and harmony. You see, at that point I was convinced, I was just sure I was going to be a composer arranger. And he never said no to any of my questions. I wanted to organize a jam session in the theater to explore jazz with some of the other band students over lunch hour, because you know how hip we 7th graders can be. We'd go into the theater, we'd turn on Just the Blue Gels, because it came with that really smoky, cool jazz club feel. And we had some bizarre instrumentation like a cello, a flute, piano player, and a drummer. And we'd all solo for about 2 hours over an F blues progression. He also loaned me books on composition. The books were way ahead of me, but they helped me stretch. And finally, he let me compose a piece for the jazz combo, and we actually played it on a concert. It was really bad. It really was. I still have the recording. It was also built, by the way, on the F blues chord progression. But I will never forget his generosity as a teacher in allowing me to explore like that. Like my friend Lisa, that was the first time I truly understand that I could create. Those sounds, as bad as they were my sounds. And I was hooked. I've saved the most significant for last. We come to Charles T. Menghini, or as we called him back in the day, Mr. M, and I mean no disrespect, Mr. M. If I trip up, I'll recall you Dr. Menghini, but old habits die hard. Mr. M told me, by the way, when he invited me to speak, now this doesn't mean you have to talk about me, John. Of course, asking me to talk about the impact of music educators, but leaving out him, is like asking someone to give an overview of Albert Einstein's work, but you really don't have to mention the E=mc² thing. In both cases, we're talking about the pivotal experience. Mr. M was and is a friend, a mentor, and an inspiration. And he thought he was just a band director. He believed in me more than I believed in myself. I'm 42 years old, and sometimes he still does. He gave me opportunities to find seeds of self-confidence. I could spin out glowing descriptions and memories for hours. I recall distinctly the first time I saw you direct the Golden Variety Band. It's when I was still in junior high and wanted so bad to be a part of it. And you had such utter control over the ensemble. It's like the dynamics were connected to strings and they were your puppets. The hands would come up and there was forte, and they'd come down and it was piano. And it was glorious to watch, and I wanted so bad to be a part of that experience. I think one of the things I've cherished the most is, besides the musical memories, the incredible work ethic that Dr. Menghini instilled in his bands. And I can genuinely say, this was not a disingenuous statement for purposes of rhetoric, that so much of my own success in business and other fields I've pursued has been because